Ogden, I have decided that you are my grandfather.
If that were true, that'd make me the king.
Well, you're a king in my eyes.
You're a bit creepy, kid.
Ladies, gentlemen, and Monsties of all ages, with the Stories 3 demo now being out, beyond the relatively short section of story for the game that we actually have, we have quite a bit of the actual world to explore, a lot of monsters to fight and eggs to collect, among other fun things that you can do as well. Yesterday I gave you all the sort of general lowdown and my immediate opinions on the demo so far, and I tried to avoid all spoilers possible. Today the only spoilers that we are avoiding are literal like story cutscenes and such, as we're going to talk about every single Monstie that you can find in the demo, 2 monsters that you can find either in rare locations or through rare circumstances that are extremely special to note, and we'll talk about the feral monster that we haven't spoken about so far as well, just to speak a little bit more about that system. On top of that, I have really just scoured the map and want to point out special equipment, recipe locations for the ability to craft gear that is not available by default, including some very solid weapons. Then I just want to point out any interesting places of note, some relevant right now, and some that I think are actually hints towards stuff in the full game itself later on. First up then, let's go over the monsters that are a bit rarer to find, as they are a pretty big deal. First up, the super big deal one is a full-on Elder Dragon, and one of my favorite monsters ever personally, Namielle, the deep sea dragon. You may be thinking, there's a goddamn Elder Dragon in the first zone of the game, and yeah, there actually is. It only shows up if you do a bunch of battling and defeating monsters during nighttime specifically, and when it happens, it causes a full-on zone-wide weather event of a big storm centered around Mirror Lake, and when this happens, there is a giant cutscene, so it's pretty much impossible to miss if you have it happen. But then if you approach the storm in the lake, you'll see a bunch of like dead Plesioth and even some Royal Ludroth surrounding the Namielle at the center of the storm. You can then glide up to her and then you can fight, but I don't think there is any chance that anyone is going to beat her in the demo because she is level 75. That said, it does teach us a number of things, and there's a special treat too, even for losing the fight. As for the teaching, when you first trigger this, you get the tutorial screen for Elder Dragons, which tells you that this is how Elder Dragons work in Stories 3. You fight at night, and after doing enough combat at night, an Elder Dragon can spawn. You can repel Elder Dragons if you do enough damage before you fully die, which lets you then fight them multiple times in order to get the full slay in the end, or if you are powerful enough, you can then just kill them straight up, of course. But the fun thing that this doesn't even mention is even if you full on lose on turn 2, which is as fast as you can lose, the Elder Dragon still seems to leave behind one material. In this case, Namielle likes to leave behind a piece of her hide. You can trigger this event multiple times, and you can actually craft Namielle equipment in the demo too as soon as you have found any of her materials. The armor only costs 3 hide to craft, so if you trigger the event 3 times and you get the armor, which has some pretty nifty skills on it, so it's a pretty good option to go for. Same for the weapons, she has a number of weapons that you can craft, each one only costs 3 hide to make, so you could really kit yourself out in specifically Namielle gear very early on through the demo that we have access to right now. Though I have to imagine that this would probably get outscaled pretty quickly after the demo stuff, as it's just way too easy to get this early. But for now, it is very powerful. That said, as far as actually killing Namielle, I wish you the best of luck with that, but she starts combat with an attack that rips 2 hearts out of every ally before you can actually act. She's also scaled to level 75 again, so she takes no damage from your attacks, and she one-shots with anything she does, on top of just having a massive health pool too. At least as far as the limits of the demo go, I think the best we can really do is just look at her and be in awe of how cool the system is for Elder Dragons, and then maybe we can make some equipment from her scraps for now too, if you want to actually do that. That said, we also learned some more about what Elder Dragons will do, including the fact that killing Elder Dragons will add more eggs to the pool of eggs available in an area, and that means more Monsties, which is of course a pretty big deal. Beyond that, it's worth noting we fully expect Namielle to be a full-on Monstie, given that when you look at her in the Monsterpedia, her entry being unlocked when you fight her the first time, you can do an element swap visual check for her and see how she looks with different elements, which, by the way, looks incredible. I cannot wait to have a Namielle of my own in my party at some point. Beyond that, the other particularly rare monster to spot in the demo is actually Espinas, the Frontier flagship. This monster exists in the world asleep. Specifically, he is sleeping in this cave located right here on your map, but he blocks off the entrance. Behind him is a chest that probably has some sick item inside of it, but you can't get to the chest without beating the Espinas as he blocks the whole entrance. Except the Espinas itself is level 44, so again, this is probably not something you are likely to defeat within the demo, and while there isn't a reward for losing to this one like there is for the Namielle, you do unlock the Monsterpedia entry for it, and again, we can can see that you can look at element swap versions of Espinas, which means that he should also be a Monstie somewhere in the game too. Beyond that, I should mention the feral monsters that aren't part of the story specifically. They get marked with red crosses on your map, but especially for those who are not playing the demo, they are Feral Palumu, who is a thunder dual elemented Palumu, Feral Nursilla, who is a fire dual elemented Nursilla but is level 24 scaled, so a nice challenging fight within the demo's limitations. Then to the north, the final feral in the demo area is Feral Brachydios himself, who is a dragon dual elemented Monstie looking incredible, and he is scaled to level 44, so probably a little bit out of range of being completed before the full game is released. Beyond that, we know that endemic life freak out around invasive monsters thanks to the tutorial in game telling us that that happens, and while searching the map I found a little area where endemic life are freaking out all around it, but I can't find like an actual invasive monster nearby, so I'm thinking that either you have to defeat one of the ferals first that I haven't been able to, or maybe they just aren't in the demo itself but might be in the full game. So right here beside this little cave in the lake there are some birds and stuff freaking out, so it could be the cave itself, which is the biggest underground area on the map that I've found, but these animals also freak out all the way up the hill here, and at the top of the hill there's a spot labeled as ground dive. I don't believe any currently available Monstie in the game has the ground dive movement skill, so we won't be able to actually figure out what this does for us until the full game release, but I'm just here to say that there is something going on over here the endemic life want us to know about on the northwest side of the map. I just can't work out exactly what right now. Similar note, when you use the lookout towers around the map, which you absolutely should do, there's this little high up cliff section in that exact same area, and the lookout tower note specifically tells you that you cannot reach it through gliding, but by pointing it out, they make it sound like there is something worth going to up there. So that's worth keeping an eye on as well for a potential location. Before we get into more location specific stuff though, I want to quickly just blast through and mention every Monstie available within the demo, as it is actually pretty easy to do. In the Sunpetal Plains, you have Nursilla, Gypsaros, Royal Ludroth, Yonkutku, and then Velocidrome as the default Monsties you can find in eggs. You put a Rathian here forcibly through a story quest as well, and by raising Rathian to B rank in any habitat, you unlock Pink Rathian in that habitat. By raising either Rathian or Pink Rathian to S rank in any habitat, you unlock Dreadqueen Rathian for that area, which means that you can have a full-on Deviant even as early as level 10 before the game is even actually released. In Broadleaf Basin, which is the Thunder area, you can find Chatacabra, Anjanath, Blue Yonkutku, Purple Gypsaros, and Toby Kadachi by default. Mirror Lake, the water zone, has Green Plesioth, Normal Plesioth, Royal Ludroth, and Yonkutku again. I have not been able to work out the one question mark that I have here, which implies there is one more Monstie in the zone than this. The best logic that I have, because I have scoured this zone as much as I think I can, is we know Namielle unlocks an egg when you defeat it properly for the first time. In theory, any new egg that is available without habitat restoration has to be in one of the first 5 slots because of the default Monstie slots for a zone. So I'm betting that that question mark in Mirror Lake is probably whatever unlocks after you defeat Namielle, which might even be Namielle herself, but it does not seem to be something that we can get right now. Then finally we have the Blightstone Woods area, which has Blue Yonkutku, Nursilla, Chatacabra, Palumu, and a regular Gypsaros. So in total that makes 17 Monsties that you can find through eggs right now in the demo, plus 1 extra Monstie if we count Ratha, who is your default Monstie as well. And that is a pretty good count of Monsties that you can get as of this moment. On that note as well, stable limits in the demo, so the maximum amount of Monsties that you can own at once is 12 Monsties, but Monsties that you hatch can go over that limit if you hatch them in one go. You cannot hatch Monsties if you already have 12 Monsties in your stable, but if you have 11, you can. So if you really want to maximize your stable space, get to 11 out of 12 Monsties, then hatch 12 eggs at the same time, and that will let you hold on to 23 Monsties total, but it would stop you from hatching any new ones beyond that. Some other things of note when talking Monsties and the systems around them: dens have a small chance to have rare conditions. Things like double the amount of gathering nodes, barrel cats that are worth loads of XP if you can beat them before they run away, or things like the 2 nests in one den, or infinite eggs without making a monster angry. And you can get those 2 ones at the same time, and it lets you basically just fish for the exact eggs you want from the pool available in that zone and get 2 of them. And if you get that in a rare zone, you can get multiple rare eggs quite easily without anything stopping you. I think I went through like a dozen eggs in this den looking for Chatacabras, in one of these nests when I was doing my habitat restore for them, trying to get myself a cool thunder frog. And bonus tip here, the bottom right corner shows you the egg that you have, and this updates faster than the animation for pulling an egg out of the nest. So if you just watch the bottom corner, you will always know what egg you are getting faster than you would otherwise, and that way you know whether to keep spamming the pull out a new egg button or to stop and hold on to the one that you got. As well, while talking Monsties, I want to quickly go over habitat restoration, if for no other reason than to specifically explain how to get Dreadqueen Rathian. It is as simple as finding regular Rathian eggs, hatching them, and then releasing them to a zone of your choice through habitat restoration. Once you get Rathian to S rank, you unlock Dreadqueen eggs spawning in that same area, provided that there is at least one monster that can use poison attacks within the area by default, as when you add Rathian to the area, that is a second poisonous monster, and then when you get Rathian to B rank, that creates Pink Rathian, which is a third poisonous monster, and Dreadqueen has the secondary requirement of needing 3 poisonous monsters in the zone, as well as S rank Rathian or Pink Rathian to make it pop in. And then you can just go and collect them from a den. Dreadqueen can also be a dual element Monstie as well, so to push it even further, you can get Dreadqueen specifically to S rank in a region, and then that would be how you would get it to be a dual element Monstie, because S rank in a region is the easiest way to get dual element on Monsties in general, and those are the ones that have the color swaps or bonus genes and stuff like that. Another note is adjacent to Monsties and the dual element system is the Monsterpedia. This gets an entry for any monster that you encounter in any capacity, and a fun note is that you can find purple shiny pickups in the open world, and these purple shinies always are tracks or bits of monsters, and they unlock a bit of extra information in notes for them to be in the Monsterpedia every time that you find one, and that is a really cool bonus extra for this. We're actually going to have a lot of ecology for the monsters in this game, and I really appreciate that. But also in this system in the Monsterpedia, you can look at what any monster would look like with a different element applied to them, so you can plan whether you actually care about any of these initial Monsties being a dual element of something that they aren't by default from a purely visual standpoint at the very least. Beyond that, I want to note that side quests exist and they are definitely something worth doing, but considering that we have a level limit of 10, which is very easy to reach, it feels like doing all this stuff right now might be wasting all the experience rewards, but also the trade point rewards, as these do give trade points, and those are capped out at like 1,000 of each right now, but they're used for things like buying decorations or unlocking armor, or even just getting stocked up on potions and stuff like that too, so it might be worth doing something like actually completing the side quests, but not handing them in properly until the full game releases so that you can actually get the end rewards of each quest at least. Next up, I want to just quickly go over some bits of equipment that you can find while exploring the world that are totally worth getting. Early on in the story, you go through this gate to get to the Ashen Pass. It's where you get the Palumu egg early on in the story, but in this area there is a chest that you could very easily walk by without opening, and inside of the chest is the recipe for the Magia Charm Hunting Horn, which is a full-on powerhouse of an early game defensive hunting horn. It has a lot of good melodies, great stuff like Defensive Ditty for defense and evasion, full ailment resist song, which is incredible, and the inherent playable songs give you sleep on all attacks for all allies, and the other one restores a full heart for both you and your ally, so very high potential for harder fights to actually get a lot out of this horn. On the island here in Mirror Lake, at the very tip of the island is a chest with the Frozen Spear Tuna Greatsword recipe. This is not only a visually lovely weapon as always, but actually quite potent compared to most early game weapons as well, and it has Rage Slash as a skill, which is pretty cool too, and all you need to craft this is fish, so it's pretty easy to get. There's some other things to mention too, just for the sake of it, not quite as powerful as those two, at least in my own opinion, but right here up on a little hop from where you fight the invasive Yongaruga in the story is the Seahorse Harp Bow recipe, so you can craft that weapon too, and this is a reasonably high attack water element bow. Then over by the big tree in this spot to the southwest of the map, the very large tree right against the tree itself is a chest with the Feline Bow recipe inside of it, which is a bow with a lot of statusy type options on it, though I'm not sure if this is even craftable in the demo itself, as the second material required is full question marks for me personally. Finally then, just some extra spots worth noting. On your map you can change the level to see caves. These are all the caves that I have found so that you can look for them yourself too. These generally have a pile of materials in each one, with the exception of the southwest cave there, which does have materials, but that is where the espinas is, and the big cave in the north, which I talked about earlier. It doesn't seem to have much going on for its size so far, but there is some gathering that you can do in there at the very least too. The final thing that I want to touch on is that there are activities you can do for now, like looking for lost Poogies. Poogies are all over the place, and aside from being a fun collectible in the game, they actually do have a tangible player power benefit, which is for Thea, the battle ally. This fancy little friend has a special skill called Poogie Parade, and if you actually look at the description of the skill in the menu, it says that the damage increases related to the Poogies that you have found. So the more Poogies you find through the game, the stronger this character will be, and that means this is damage that literally scales with how much of a completionist you are, and I am honestly really excited to see how potent this can get in the full game after you found like every single Poogie that exists anywhere. That said, it's worth going through the menu here, checking out each ally's skills and what they actually do, as they have some pretty potent stuff they can offer to help you choose which one that you want to use at your side the most often. That pretty much does it for today, everyone. Some of the more hidden stuff going on in the Stories 3 demo, the hidden areas, the less known monsters you can fight, the full list of Monsties to collect, and just some side information and tips too, whether you want to just get the most out of the demo itself while you play it, or maybe you aren't even playing the demo and just want to know what's actually up within it. I hope you've all enjoyed this, and let me know your own thoughts down below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world our stage. Goodbye.